Hello, Coach.
What's up, dude?
Just got back from walking the dog. Had a bike ride. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was a little late. I got a little carried away doing a swim analysis and went like 10 minutes plus.
Oh, you can get carried away, man. Go for it.
I know, I can't. I got a little carried away with my buddy Pete. So so walking the dog, huh? You preparing Maddie for a Dogcast episode number dose?
No dogcast. I think she's been suffering from post-camp blues, man. She's just been kind of down and acting weird. I'm sure all the people around kind of threw her out of her element a little bit, and now she misses everybody. And so I'm trying to get her back in shape. I started her on the Couch to 5K program. So that's going good. Yeah, it's walk run right now.
They should call it Couch to 5K9. Man,
you got that, man. Oh, man. There it is. There's your idea, folks.
There's
I know.
Your zinger, and thought of the day idea. If anyone wants to go and run with that, go for it.
Well, I think somebody's going to do it, man. That's what we're all about, is giving people ideas and letting them work with them. Take it away. Man. Free ideas.
Yeah. Free ideas, free theories all day long, no charge.
Yeah. I got to admit, I'm a little bit down, man.
Really? Did you have a terrible ride, or you just miss everybody?
Nah, people have been heckling my voice online.
Yeah, I gotta say, I had this very youthful, powerful voice.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's the fact that yours just isn't coming through correctly, or it's just it's age and so many years and marketing and television that you may have peaked.
My voice is fatigued.
Your voice is fatigued. You might need to give it we give it plenty of rest, but man, you got to shore that thing up, man. It sounds good on my end when I listen to it, the next morning after we post it, but hey, man, we got to get it done.
I am who I am, man.
That's right, man. You are who you are.
I grew up listening to a guy named Earl Nightingale on Morning WBEL in Beloit, Wisconsin, and he had that soothing storytelling voice, and my mom used to love him, so I think that's what I've kind of always stuck with, that kind of deal.
Well, you sound good to me, man.
Well, thank you. I went out and met Lloyd in the lab.
Yeah? How was Lloyd like in the lab?
Lloyd in the lab. Lloyd in the lab. Lloyd, it's going to be Lloyd's lab because he is loving it like everyone else. Yeah. Awesome. It was great, man. He said he was going to be in town. He was happened to be right in the neighborhood because his wife's over at a conference at the school here.
Yeah, I saw that over at Stratford, right?
Yeah. So he's like, I'm going to be at the lab. So I got out there a little bit later, and but we caught up and rode together for probably 10 miles or so. A bunch of loops around the lab, caught up, talked to him. He's from the Knoxville area, and he's doing great. Loving the podcast, loving the lab. It was a good morning.
That's good, man. Was it everything that he had hoped for and heard about, or was it disappointing?
I think so. I think he loved it because he likes the idea of no cars, and he likes the idea of training in he mentioned something like he likes to run in the heat of the day and people give him shit for it, but it's sort of like he likes to train for the elements that he's going to be racing in. So that lab really appealed to him in that respect. It was. So
what is he? Is he training for a hot race?
Well, he said he does. He did Florida 70.3 and Chat 70.3. He does early season 70.3s, and then for the rest of the season he does sprints. It was a unique approach.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I said, so you train for your big races inside, basically, or on the trainer. Yeah. He's like, yeah, it really works out for me. So he said he does a sprint almost every weekend. He's doing one in the Knoxville scene this weekend, I think. I don't know exactly which one it is, but I don't know. He likes it. He likes hard he calls them hard training days, and that's what he does.
Well, hey man, whatever works, stick with it and stay happy.
Yeah, happy and healthy Lloyd.
Happy and healthy Lloyd in the lab.
Yeah. Okay, man. So I got a couple of things I want to bring up.
Okay.
You ready?
I hope so. I feel like I'm about to get lectured.
Not lectured, man. Good. It was something Okay, I got two things. I'm going to just bring up the first one yesterday because we were texting about it and you sort of just kind of piffed it off a little bit. You really didn't really mention much. But I was just curious about it because...
Piffed it. Okay. Go ahead.
We were talking about the Racine 70.3 and why the swim got canceled. Mm-hmm. And, I have people up there that were doing the race and everything like that. And the day before the race, allegedly on the Ironman website, it said water temperature 62 or 61. And then it was in, like a big red box. It said wetsuit mandatory race. Mm-hmm. And so that was the day before. Okay. And that supposedly the morning of, they canceled the swim because they said the water temp was 51. And, I don't know. I guess water can go down 10 degrees overnight, but my thought was that...
It can, and I think it was a combination. Because they talk about this at Muncie all the time, too, because in reservoirs and lakes, like depending on what the weather is and coming in and the wind, it can drop really, really low. And I think one of their bigger concerns was not just the low temperature of the water, but the heavy winds on the bike was going to make it even colder. But I don't know. I had mixed feelings about it. I think that I think who knows what the actual water temp was, but I have a hard time. I mean, I think they're quick to pull the trigger sometimes on canceling swims or shortening swims or whatever, due to whatever the weather is like, but they have to understand that it's not good for business. And Racine has been on death's doorstep since the day they started it. It has had, I think it's either second or third canceled swim. The roads there are just god awful. And when you start to combine that, it's a recipe for a dying race. So I can't imagine that whenever that contract comes up for renewal, it's going to get renewed. Especially with Wisconsin 70.3 now being available. So I don't know. I have a hard time believing that they would have fudged a water temp to cancel the swim. But hey, you never know.
Well, it could go on, I guess, as the Racine 69.1 duathlon from now on, because they have had a lot of canceled swims there, and obviously, I'm from Wisconsin. I know Lake Michigan is freezing cold even in the summer, but to go into that, I just was wondering if maybe 61 might be a little unusual the day before, or for the swimming, even in that area, that might have been abnormally low. And I just wonder if a lot of people the day before were just not going in to do practice swims, or they weren't feeling the swim. They were not happy about it. And I just felt like maybe they just kind of went out somewhere and got that reading and canceled the swim because they thought maybe a lot of people wouldn't actually do the race if they had the swim. So, but I don't understand how you can, be thinking about a Racine Lake Michigan swim and know for sure it's going to be cold, and then get there and actually be like, man, that's cold, I'm not doing it. I don't understand why you even sign up for the race. But I'm not saying they fudged it. I don't know. It's just a little weird because 2 days later it was 66.
Yeah.
Because we were looking at the temps on the weather websites, and
you were.
I was. Yeah, I was. You weren't. Yeah. That's what I said. You pissed it away like you didn't really care.
Yeah, I was. I'm fairly disinterested.
Big deal. All right. So topic number two. Topic number two. And I'm just going to bring this up because, I've been kind of thinking about this power meter stuff, and I'm getting more and more intrigued by it. The more I hear about it, and the more I talk about it, everybody's saying it's this and that, and it's a very powerful tool to use. I was telling Lloyd, actually, I said in the back of my mind, I'm kind of like this guy who wants to debunk the theory and show that I can do it without that stuff, and I've mentioned Chrissy Wellington before and how she never used that, but then I started looking at the KONA times over the years. And have you ever done that?
There are quite a few websites that do these like trajectories and analysis of like year to year to year to year. The ones I've seen don't take into account other conditions like the wind and the heat versus like what it was year to year, but I can't recall what some of the the ebb and flows of the times have been.
Well, I just find it remarkable that, and again, I guess Mark Allen and Dave Scott might have been exceptional athletes or something. There's always that kind of thing. But in 1993, Allen did KONA in 8:07, and nobody beat that until Alexander in 2011.
Like 5 years ago. Yeah.
And then last year, Frodeno beat it by a minute. So I'm just marvel at because the advances between 93 and 2016 in aero and all the technological advances on the cycling thing and the run, whatever, all that stuff, and he's just like 1 minute faster in almost 20 years. That just blows my head off. And it's really, mid 8:15 is kind of around the average for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
So what is that? I know I'm obviously on the one side of this, but is it just that they were tougher back then, or what?
Well, here's the way I like to look. Well, I think they probably are a little bit, but the dynamics of the race were a little bit different back then. There definitely weren't as many pros, or weren't as many things you could do your own race. I tend to never want to look at the super pointy end or the super back end. I think it's more telling when you look at the middle, the average Joe, and that the average Joe times have gotten much, much faster. Because I feel like those are the ones that are trainable and adaptable, and can ebb and flow with ability, and as the years go, and be benefited from the new gear and new data and stuff. By no means do I think it's a prerequisite for being faster in general, qualifying for KONA, or any of those things. But I tend to think that when you look at the best of the best of the best, then you're looking at the smallest percentage possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more, you'd get better feedback as to the benefits and the better athletic ability that athletes have these days versus back then, and are they or are they not more athletic and bigger and stronger when you start to look at everybody in the middle versus the best of the best or the worst of the worst. I think that's more of a something you could actually have a pretty good argument about.
Yeah, and you're right. I think that I do think it's possible.
You always look for ways to confirm your desire or theory, not the other way around.
You're right. I'm definitely not a scientist, am I?
Well, everybody's a scientist in their own way.
Yeah, but
you're just a mad scientist.
I'm a modern day person. I always go on the internet and I look for articles that confirm my theories.
Yeah,
and they're always there. They're always there.
They're always there. You should have, you should have been on Facebook when everybody was voting.
Voting for what?
The last time we had the election. Everybody always looks for things that confirm what they believe or what they've said, and they do it without even reading the whole entire article. And so we always that's human nature. We always search for things that don't necessarily make us feel uncomfortable or contradict our beliefs. That's what we do, because it's weird for us to always to think outside the box or think that we might be wrong. And I'll kind of use this as an example. Is that Allie and I have you watched the Netflix documentary What the Health?
I haven't seen it yet.
Enlightening, intriguing.
Is that the new one with the like the hamburger with pills on it? Is that
and so I've been toying with this. I love meat like the next person. I'm a steak and tater guy the night before. Two of our better fans of C26 podcast and two of our athletes, Jamie and Kate Lopez, actually, when they came into camp this weekend, I told them I was kind of thinking of taking a more serious approach to fueling what I put in my body. And they brought me this book. It's called Thug Kitchen.
I saw that laying around.
Yeah, and and excuse my language, if you have kids in the car, you might want to turn it down for a quick second or cover their ears. But it's Thug Kitchen, and the other line on the page is "Eat like you give a fuck." And I was like, well, first I can always get behind a point blank, no BS line, but all of the items in there, or the recipes, are all vegetarian. Now, I'm not willing to give up everything, but the last 2 days I have gone totally without meat, which is the longest I've ever gone. I don't even remember when. Haven't given up eggs or a little bit of dairy and stuff like that. I got to do one thing at a time, but I wanted to at least try it out and see if I could feel any differences in my body or the way that I felt or how my workouts have gone. And so I'm gonna see how long I can go. But it is totally contradictory to everything. Not that I've because I think oftentimes, and this is so true with training and a lot of things in life too, is that we say, oh, well, that's just contradictory to what I believe. And I'm like, well, do you believe it or you just chose to accept it? And I think those are two very different stances and arguments, is that, oh, well, I believe this. Well, do you, or did you just adopt that point of view because it was the easiest for you to grasp or the easiest for you to accept, to where I don't have to do any more due diligence on research or just figure out, well, maybe I'm just flat out wrong, or maybe I need to find my own way. And so Allie watched the video and she's like, oh, I feel like I've been, poisoning Hayden the last year and whatever. I'm like, oh, I think that's a little extreme. But what I did say to her was like, well, listen, I said, we can choose to go this route or we can not, but I think it's worth exploring. And I think, kudos to us just for at least opening our minds to even possibly doing it, because it's a total shift from I was steak, chicken, and something every single night of the week, sometimes 2 or 3 days a week, or 2 or 3 meals a day. I'm definitely not willing to dive in and go totally vegan and hop on that train yet, but I'm willing to see if there's merit to making my body a more healthy machine. And so, I guess that was a little bit of a digress from where you're going, but we talk about that in training. Is that I think some you definitely want to, there's that old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I also sometimes think that, I agree with that to a point, but I also believe that once you become too comfortable in that saying, then it's time to explore other options. And I think that's what you and I are talking about here, is that, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and so can do it, or so and so's able to achieve this and do this, and I've just done this for a long time and it's always worked. And okay, well, are you stagnant? Are you comfortable? Are your improvements still, being achieved by leaps and bounds and dropping this and dropping that? Or do you think it's time to change things up and at least explore that your option and your method of training and your approach to this and your belief in that, it may be pretty solid and it may be pretty good, but could it be better? And I just think that's scary for people all around, because I think that you're going into uncharted territory and you don't like being uncomfortable and not knowing certain things. And then I think that there's this little bit of fear to thinking, man, what if I do turn out and I am better? You're going to be like, man, I've missed all this time, So I think it's an interesting, and very intriguing conversation.
We kind of buried the lead there. I mean, if you're thinking about going vegan, that should have been right out of the gate, I think. I mean, you're going the lengths you'll go to get Rich Roll on this podcast, Bill.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, they even sent me his book, which was nice. They sent a nice note about how great camp was, and they sent me the Finding Ultra book for Rich Roll, and I was like, listen, I'm not becoming Rich Roll. Sorry.
Well, you just never know, right? I mean, I think that obviously
we have some similarities in our story, but the thing is like, whether I become, whether I choose to not eat meat or continue to eat meat or whatever it is, I'm willing to. My basic underlying goal for this is to pay more attention to and be more mindful of what I'm putting in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And although it's not going to be easier, because dear God, with a 1-year-old who, as this will be released tomorrow on Thursday, July 20th, that'll be Hayden's birthday, 1 year. That
Wow.
making these dinners and things takes a heck of a lot more time. Learning new recipes and all these extra ingredients, it's very foreign, and so it takes a lot of work. Like, we didn't eat dinner Monday night until 7, which is 30 minutes before I try to get in bed, because it took forever, and it's trying to handle Hayden and feed him different things, and so it's an adjustment, and it's not like it's stress free. It actually causes more, but if I'm willing to at least explore it, then I feel like I'm doing, no matter what, I'm going to be benefited from it. Whether it's from, a psychological standpoint, or whether I'm saying, you know what, if I want to go easy, I'll just go back to grilling, 5 steaks and 5 pieces of chicken and some pork, and cut those up and have them for the whole week and stick to what I've been doing, because it's easy. But I'm not in that mode right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with this 100 Days to Louisville thing. Is that, I don't have a lot of room for error.
Well, yeah, you don't want to go too dramatic either. I mean,
exactly. I don't want to be too dramatic. But if what I get from this is paying more attention and getting in more fruits and vegetables and fueling my body in a much cleaner way and in a more timely way, then it's going to be a win no matter what. So I'm looking at this as just another way to improve my overall health and well-being, and really just being more mindful. I think that's what it comes down to for me, is being more mindful of not just going through the motions, because I can find myself doing that. I'm a creature of habit. I'm a comfort junkie. So this is definitely not easy, but I'm definitely willing to at least explore every option in order to make taking myself the best opportunity to be successful.
Yeah, the one thing you said there was the easy part, and I've always been fairly open to this. Way back in the day, my business partner was a vegetarian at the time, and we were doing a lot of work at his house, and his wife would, every night we would be getting done about 6, and she would always whip up an unbelievable vegetarian meal. So for a long stretch, maybe a month or 2, I was eating vegetarian for the most part. And that was easy because it was already made, but how do you translate that, what you were just saying about cooking a bunch of stuff and then having it waiting for you, and to understand how to do that with, a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle, I think is part of the challenge for me. And that's just, how do you, what do you do? I mean, you boil a big pot of rice and, those kind of things, and have all that, but it's just a learning curve in a way. And I think you're right, man. I mean, there's just no question there's benefits to me when I eat cleaner. I mean, but it's that ease and that tendency of, hard training can really be a way to reach for something that you shouldn't. I mean, it's just it's like sometimes when you're done with a big workout, man, it's just like, it doesn't matter. You just need to grab something, and you're grabbing the easiest stuff all the time, and it's not necessarily the best stuff. And that's kind of the challenge, I think, with triathlon. But I think I can also see how if you adjust your body to over time, that would just become a lot easier, because that's what your body would be craving in those situations. Because it comes down to that craving sometimes, and that's something I don't quite understand. But like I said, I'm totally down for that, man. I really don't eat a ton of meat anyway, but I can tell sometimes that I will swing the pendulum too far. And one of the big things with me is sugar. It's just an awful thing, man. Whether last night, I just was for whatever reason craving, and I never do this, but I do it about once every 2 months. I'll just have this huge craving for almond milk and cereal, and I will just pound.
So good.
I know, and I'll just pound it, and invariably I get it gets me in a bad place. My head gets cloudy. I don't know what it is. It's all that sugar or something. Yep. That's my likely theory. But and it kind of gets you down a little bit and foggy, and that's just come on, man. I'm 50. Yeah. That's the last thing I want to be, is that in that state of mind, because there's just too much to do, and we got so much more going on. When you add the training, and then we talked about this, but man, we were just kind of doing our thing and podcasting and everything, and then all of a sudden we added Ironman training. It's like all of a sudden there's like 2 or 3 more hours of your day just sucked away.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's the added pressure of it,
Right. And I think, and that's, I guess the other part of it is that, and I think that's part of me like exploring this option is that, like I've been, this is my, day 12 or 13 of no missed workouts. All green on my training peaks, haven't even taken a day off. Haven't skipped things, moved some things around, but haven't skipped things. Did my trainer session this morning and do something tonight. And so it's more about finding a way, finding a way to accomplish what I want to accomplish, even if I not necessarily don't want to, but even if it would be easier to not do it. It would be much easier for me to just go throw a steak on the grill and microwave a sweet potato and call it a day, versus look in this foreign, cookbook, and find a new recipe and shop for new items where I don't know in the grocery store and have like no effing clue where anything is, which I just can't stand. And then prepping it takes much longer. And so it's the total opposite of trying to make things easier. But, what I liked about what we, the process is that we're definitely being more mindful of what we put in our bodies. We're putting in good, solid food, and we're making a concerted effort to do a better job of, meal prepping and setting ourselves up for success versus falling back into the routine of, I can just unwrap this protein bar and eat it, or I can just, throw the steak on and grill it, or I can just do what I've always been doing. And so I think it's something that translates into every part of your life, vice versa, which is it my training that's making me more apt to want to be uncomfortable and try this, or is it vice versa? And so, regardless, like I said, whatever, I'm not hopping on the, I only see, because like when you start to not eat meat, you're like, oh, well, so-and-so is this and so-and-so is that. And they do it and they're awesome. Like, but no offense, but there are millions of athletes on the face of the planet who are all awesome and all eat meat or don't eat dairy or only are vegan, and so I'm not on this journey to be, say that this is the only way to go, but I'm willing to make a more mindful approach, like I said, to fueling my body in a more mindful manner. And if I can do that, then no matter what direction I take, I feel like it's going to be a win.
That word mindful is interesting because I do think that, you hear people talk about like the aggressive or the meat eater and the aggression part of it, and then about raw diets. And I think Rich Roll's a great example. He's super mindful and compassionate and, caring and that sort of stuff. And then when you combine like that, I mean, sometimes I think like that's why like pro football players, you hear about them eating like, 5 steaks the night before a game. You know what I mean? Like, do you think that there's a natural testosterone boost or that kind of stuff, or what's the deal is there? Because when we're talking about being competitive in triathlon and or being more mindful people, I mean, I think, does it take an edge away? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, is there something to that? Or
man, I don't know.
I don't know either. I listen to a lot of stuff on that, and I hear, Michael Jordan always used to say, when he was the biggest competitor, arguably there's ever been, and he was always about steak and potatoes, and that's what he did. And I don't know if that's.
We always look for that, man.
Mm-hmm.
You mean like in me, like, oh well, I can't remember every meal I've ever had. I always remember like when I did country music marathon, I had a great race. All I had the night before was a steak, and like, okay, well, is that because I had the steak, or is that because I just had a great race? And so from then on out, I have a steak. And so I think we're really easy to latch on to these, what works for me, when we don't really have any consistent, not science, but just consistent personal experience, just from yourself. Like, and that's so much about what training and life is it's like, you don't have to adopt everybody else's beliefs. Like, it's okay to have your own. And it's okay to have your own based on your own personal experience.
Right.
And just because someone disagrees with what you eat or how you train or where you live or what you believe, doesn't mean that some people, the way they approach it and the things they say, you'd make them think, well, you can just shut the hell up. You're just a prick. But what usually it says is that that's just that's their version of their own reality, and it really has nothing to say about you. And I think that's just so much of what I trained this way for this one race, and I know it worked, so therefore it must work for every other race, period. And it's just not the case.
No.
It just isn't. And we get stuck in that and using the same and that's why I just hate, when like all these ridiculous magazines put out like, 16 weeks to your best Ironman. I'm like, you're so full of crap. Because somebody's going to use that and think that that's the best way and the time they just got was the best. And it's not. And people tend to identify themselves with their approach, and they start to value themselves or devalue themselves based on the approach. Mm-hmm. I told Jamie Lopez this the first 2 days we started working together. He sent me the plan he used for Ironman Louisville last year. I think he was like a 15 or even a 16-hour finisher, and he said, I had this, I'm not the greatest athlete, and I was using this plan, and I got real sick, and the week before Louisville, and I was like, dude, that time has nothing to do with your ability. It was the plan you were on. And not to make my plans out to be, God's, greener pasture and all gold, but, people take these to heart. And I'm like, dude, you're so much better than that. And so you do it and think, oh, well, this is as good as it gets. This is the athlete that I am. And we do that in every part of our life, whether it's training, racing, who we choose to surround ourselves with, and what we, political views or religious view, and whatever it is. And it's just, we tend to identify so many things with things we accept instead of always trying to challenge ourselves and grow and being open-minded to the fact that, it's not that I'm wrong, because you don't have to say that. Like, in order to adopt a different way of thinking, it was just like, I just like to always be learning, and I don't want to totally throw all of my eggs in one basket and say that I only believe this. Because if you do that, then you stop learning and you're dead in the water.
Yeah, learning is the key to everything, right? So it's the key to life. And I didn't mean, I was actually saying in a way that being mindful might be an advantage in a sport like Ironman, to the point of, we talk about patience all the time, and you can only throw so much aggression out on the Ironman course because you have to be level-headed, you have to be calm, you have to be balanced, and I'm just I'm always curious as to maybe like a well-rounded diet and taking a little bit of time to cook or whatever these things may be that may teach you to be a little bit more patient, a little bit more mindful, and that might be an advantage in the long run for most of us because, we're not, like that girl at Chattanooga who was running her whole way through the marathon to try and finish that pro, and I'm not even going to get into the rest of that, but you know what I mean? It's like that most of us don't race like that and shouldn't race with that just hammer to the metal all the time. So I find it interesting from that perspective, to think about, a whole food diet and like, I don't know. It's just so confusing, man, because like you said, it's just so many people have different theories on it. And obviously it all comes back to you. And I guess the key is to be able to be aware enough to understand and feel and know what works for you and be confident with that,
Yeah, you just don't. Everybody loves to label themselves for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Like I just don't find it necessary. Like, why are you labeling yourself this or labeling yourself that or labeling yourself not this? Like, why not just do the best you can and figure it out as it goes? Like, because I think people are so apt to quickly adopt certain things and label, I've become paleo, and now I've become ketogenic, and now I've become vegan, and now I've become, gluten free. I'm like, Why? Like, because it's actually that you know for a fact that you tried it long enough to know that's what's best for you? Or why not just say, like, I just choose to eat mindfully and healthy, and this is what I've chosen to eat and not to eat. Doesn't really mean you're this or that. Like, I know we love to tag ourselves at these things, or a triathlete or an ultra runner or a swimmer or a cyclist or an Ironman. I'm like, it doesn't really mean anything, and B, I think it's a way to identify ourselves to others, when in reality it's like everybody eats and acts and performs differently because of different things and different variations in their life, and so, I think it's more than okay to just accept that, and not label yourself, or even labeling yourself an athlete or a non-athlete. Like, you adopt these perceptions of yourself, and the more you label yourself, the more difficult it is to change that, because in order to change the label you've given yourself, you basically have to announce to the world that you were just full of crap and you were wrong. Versus always being on this curve of learning and just keep trying to figure it out, and don't act like you have it all figured out.
That happens a lot, man. I mean, when I first started Ironman, I think it's just about being in tribes and being able to, kind of associate with something that you feel is positive at the moment, and it gives you a mental boost, and it kind of changes your life. And it's so easy to get sucked into that, like you're just saying, like, this is me now, and this is who I am. And then 2 years later, you went so hard on it and and forced yourself into that box so hard that you hate it. And we talk about, taking it as you come and enjoying it, and like the last podcast, being healthy and happy. And that's really the key to it all. It's like Ironman isn't your label, or triathlon isn't your label. It's a part of you. And how does that enhance the whole? I've always struggled with, like, I grew up an athlete. I grew up hanging around and doing the sport thing, but I always sort of like was interested in arts, and it was really hard for me to juxtapose the two, because you rarely see, growing up in high school or whatever, the art and theater guy hanging around with the jocks. It's just sort of, you picks one way or the other. And as I sort of matured and got away from all that stuff I embraced sort of that creative side of my life, and then I dumped the athletic thing, and it was sort of like I was just going back and forth. And now I'm finally starting to be able to mesh those two together in a lifestyle, and just be comfortable with all of that being a part of me, And it's not easy, but I think it's just that over exuberance sometimes to jump on something new that feels good and exciting, and you feel like it changes you overnight, when it's just it's just another dopamine buzz.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put it. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to just acceptance. Like, if I label myself, I'm easily accepted by other people who label themselves the same. And I think that's really easy to do in our society. I mean, like, I know that I don't even, and whatever this does or does not say about my personality, it's like, oh, well, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I do endurance sports. I don't even like saying, like, oh, I do Ironman, or I'm a triathlete, because that's not really who I am. Like, I truly like endurance sports. And I don't necessarily want to be labeled as just a triathlete or an Ironman or whatever you want to call it. I don't like to be labeled. It's just, I'm very uncomfortable with it. I don't like the feeling. So I'm like, oh, I just do endurance sports. So I go, well, what do you do? I do long distance events. That's kind of what I like to say, because I don't, that's just my personality, I think, and I don't like talking about it. I mean, I think it just comes down to labeling ourselves, and I don't think you ever want to just put yourself in a box. And I think that's what labeling does, because the more you put yourself in a box, the higher the walls become, and then the more difficult it is to see out of the box, or to even try to get out of the box, and you just feel stuck. And that's where you can limit yourself from a growth aspect, whether it's life or training or whatever. It's just like, don't put yourself in a box. Be moldable, be approachable, be vulnerable, and if you can do those things, then you're always going to be ready to grow or ready to try something new. And I think if you're ready to that, you're either going to find out you're going to achieve great success, or you'll figure out something even if you fail that'll make you better for next time. And I think that's just, that's part of association. And you said something else about being mindful when it comes to racing. And I think that's like, man, I just think that's, for me, that's the most difficult thing to do. And I was thinking about that today. I was on my trainer doing a really, really hard session. And what I've been doing during these hard intervals on my trainer is, instead of listening to like, my favorite like hardcore playlists, I've actually been playing, this, I've been playing the 2014 Crushing Ironman Louisville video. And we're talking like U2, not hardcore music. But the more that I watch it, the more I think back to Wisconsin, is like, I want to perform really, really well. And I want to do that. And part of that is just paying attention to yourself and paying attention to the numbers and being aware of your body and executing a great race. So you've got being mindful on that end. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, like, I don't want to miss out on seeing so many people. Like, I don't want to miss out on giving a high five to my family, or stopping and giving Hayden a hug on the course, and enjoying the moments and the energy and the people and the support, and that's also being mindful, because you can execute your race to perfection and get the time you desired and literally not remember a single solitary thing from the race. Or you can be so caught up in the crowd and the energy that you disassociate from your game plan and fail to execute, and then you remember the people along the way, but then you're just bummed out from the result. And so for me, like, that is for me where I currently sit when it comes to Louisville, is how am I going to approach that, and how am I going to like balance that delicate go between when it comes to being mindful.
The thing that came to mind when you were saying that was, my best swims have been when I have, it's almost like you what you're just saying, it's like you have to have sections of both of those things, the focus and the mindfulness, because a Louisville swim, for example, it starts behind that island and a little bit upstream, but it's a little protected, so it's not bad. But my thought going into that, I was nervous about that race. It was my first Ironman without a wetsuit. And so I knew going in that my thing was going to be to soak in the vibe, look around, not be pounding the swim out of the gate in my box. I was really easing into that thing. And I knew by the time I got to the end of the island, when we have to cross into the current for about 400 or 500 yards or whatever that section is upstream, that was the focus point, right?
Yep.
So I kind of was mindful, looking around, enjoying, literally enjoying little contacts and looking at people on the boats as they were cheering for us and things of that nature. And then when I got to that channel, I knew it was work time for about 400 yards. And I just put the hammer down as hard as I could, and I was nice and loose and ready for it. And then when I cornered that, and then you're all downstream. And the same thing is like, all I cared about was just being relaxed and looking around and realizing that I was in the middle of an Ironman swim, which in its own right is pretty damn cool if you think about it. Yeah. And then you, I can't imagine. Like, I thought of that my first time in an Ironman. I was like, man, I am in an Ironman swim right now. It's just really badass. So, but as you're coming down the river in Louisville, there's just these magnificent bridges and people all over the place, and it's just so wide and beautiful. And so I was soaking that in. That was I wasn't letting go and flipping around and just soaking it, but I was just on my game plan, but it was relaxed, and I think that's right. the thing that it sucks more energy than anybody realizes. When you tense up and try to focus, you become worse most of the time, because if your muscles aren't relaxed and you're flowing with power in a relaxed state, it's going to take away energy, and it's going to be harder and harder and harder. And I got out of that water, my fastest Ironman swim by far, and I felt magnificent. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot to do with enjoying that race whenever you can, and then there's going to be a lot of time when you got to stick your nose in there and focus, because It's going to get really hard, and then you can come out of it. But when you see the people that you love, or you see people you know, enjoy that section, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that helps. It's almost like a little recovery spot, you know? You can't pedal to the metal for 12, 13, 14 hours without little recoveries. You know, it's like standing on the side of a pool for 10, 15 seconds. It's amazing what that does to you.
Yep, totally.
Anyway.
Well, so that was a great recap of the Ironman Louisville course. Hope everyone enjoyed it.
That was our goal today, was a course breakdown for Ironman Louisville. So there you have it.
Two guys talking about nothing.
That's pretty much it, right? We just...
yeah, we'll get it next time.
Hey, but I enjoyed that podcast. We're doing daily videos, everybody. A lot of people you know, but we're doing daily training videos since the day we signed up for Ironman Louisville. It's under this heading of 100 Days to Louisville. It's they're all on the Crushing Iron YouTube page, which I encourage you to subscribe to. That would really be helpful for us. And it's under the playlist on 100 Days to Louisville. And we'll be doing, you know, it's may or may not be the most exciting thing in the world, but it's a daily focus for us to, you know, talk about what we've been doing and how we're staying engaged and keeping focused on this race. And hopefully it inspires you a little bit. You know, never know, one or two words here or there, or thoughts can make a difference in you getting out and doing a workout too. So that's what we've been doing. We're looking for different angles on these sorts of things, and I'm sure it'll evolve as we move closer to the race, which now that it's in the teens, kind of feels like it's moving a little faster than it was last week to me.
You mean
the days,
the day teens?
Like day.
Day 88 days. Like, yeah, when it got below 90, I was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's getting fairly serious.
Here it goes. Anything else? All right, we're doing. How's the swim analysis going for you?
Man, response, I mean, is the same. Really great response. Everybody's seeing tremendous results. If you're interested in getting your swim analysis and video analysis done and improving your swim, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to give you more info. Either message me on Facebook, or you can email me at c26coach@gmail.com. Again, thank you to all the people who came out to camp this last weekend. It was just an absolute blast. And if you are in the Columbia, Missouri area, I'm coming to your zip code, baby. I will be in Columbia, Missouri next Saturday for an open water swim clinic from 3 to 6. For the Columbia Multisport Club. They're also inviting visitors. So if you want information on coming to that, I promise it will be 3 hours, well worth your while. And you can email me again at c26coach@gmail.com. I'll give you more info. And for all my Columbia peeps, looking forward to seeing you soon.
Are we going to be podcasting from Columbia?
No, I'll be back Sunday. We may have to. I don't know. We'll see what your schedule's like, but I may have to podcast from Columbia.
Okay. I always like that. Whatever. Man, you guys have been doing a great job, I think, of sharing the podcast. And just to let you know, I mean, it's really growing. So feel free to and feel confident to know that a lot of people are contacting us and really loving what they're hearing. So that's been pretty cool over the last couple of days. Well, the last couple months, actually. It's just been steadily growing, and I can't tell you how much that means to us, and we had no idea, and it's pushing us and to get better and better, and that's what our deal is. So
yep, pushing us, and I think that we've decided that if you are interested in making Chattanooga 70.3 one of your races next year, I think we have plans to go quite big for that, and I think it'd be awesome to see like 30, 40 people there at Chattanooga 7.3. But then again, I think we're going to have like 20 to 30 people at Ironman Wisconsin and also at Ironman Louisville. We have an event set up at Ironman Louisville, a little meet and greet. If you're not on our closed group, you probably haven't seen it, but we're doing a little meet and greet on Friday the 13th, October in Louisville. Just a chance to meet and hang out and connect with some awesome people. And so if you want more details on that, feel free to reach out. And thanks again for listening.
Yeah. Do we have some C26 trucker hats coming in?
They're on the way.
They're on the way?
They're en route.
Okay. So
By truck.
By truck.
Yeah. I'm not sure what really defines a trucker hat.
Well, breathable
they're sweet,
mesh.
But they're mesh on the back end. They're sweet looking. They're black and white. And I will make sure everybody knows once I get them. Quantities will be limited. More than 60 to 70% of these have been pre-ordered, but we'll have some left over for sure. I'll probably take some with me to Columbia, actually. But we can always reorder.
Yeah.
And so if you're interested, reach out, let us know, and we'll get you one.
I like to call them 1970s Little League hats.
Yes. I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay. I think that wraps up podcast, what is it, 76?
76, podcast 76.
Crushing Iron podcast number 76 is archived. Well, it's about to be archived.
It's about to be. And Wes Keane, if you're listening, I'm about to do your swim analysis.
Prepare. Ooh, that's exciting, man.
Prepare to launch. Yep. I'm going to log off and get back to work. My other side of work.
Okay. Do your endurance athlete stuff.
I'll go.
All right, I'm going to see if I can bring my little dog back to life here after everybody abandoned her.
Signing off.
Okay. See you, buddy.
See you, buddy.